What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Stephen Dumeng here, referee Stephen Dumeng here, the mixer. I wear a few different hats, literally and figuratively. And let's get right to UFC 310 predictions. I nailed it for 309, if I say so myself. Let's get to it. We have some featherweight action. Nate Landwehr, 18-5 against Do Hoo Choi, 15-4-1. Nate is coming off a first round knockout and is currently 4-1 in his last 5. Choi, a bit inactive these days. This is the first time he's having 2 fights in 1 year since 2016, which is wild when it comes to the MMA world. And still, despite that, he is only 33 years old. He is coming off a TKO, a submission to punch over Bill Algeo in July. Prior to that, he had a draw, and then prior to that, he had a really rough stretch, 3-fight losing streak. He looks to regain the momentum when he initially signed with the UFC, which, oh my, at this point is soon to be, no, actually, it's over 10 years ago, when he scored his first UFC victory in 2014, 18-second TKO. Holy moly, time flies. In any case, he's going to be looking, like I said, to continue to build on his most recent win. Will it happen? This is a tough fight to call. I feel this card particularly has a lot of great competitive matchmaking. And for our opener, I mean, the Korean Superboy has sustained 2 losses by knockout, 2 by decision. I think the combination of inactivity and also, again, Nate looking to also secure his spot, building off a win. He's looked pretty good in recent memory. His only recent loss would be over Dan Ige, who's always game, always very tough fighter. So he took a decision loss there. And I think he's going to take a win here. I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr and he seems to favor whether it comes to finishes, favors the knockout or TKO over the submission. I think that's going to happen too. I think we will see Nate by TKO in the first round. Moving on in action, we have a fight that I'm extremely surprised, no offense to either fighter, is on the main card. We have Bryce Mitchell against Kron Gracie. We're talking about fighters who aren't very consistent in the UFC, at least in regards to consistently fighting in the octagon. And Kron Gracie, my goodness, I, for a point in time, didn't realize he was still in the UFC. Coming off a rather, I don't even know what to call it, a very strange performance in his last fight out. Bryce, unfortunately, sustaining a nasty knockout loss to Josh Emmett in his last go. These guys both looking to get back on the winning track. Bryce is 1-2 in his last 3. Again, losing to Josh and also losing to Ilya Topuria. Again, people that are, top of the food chain here in that division. And Kron is 5-2 in his MMA career. And he is currently riding a 2-fight losing streak. He is 1-2 in the UFC. His first fight dating all the way back to 2019 with the UFC. His only UFC win over Alex Caceres. His only UFC win being over Alex Caceres. And that was in February 2019. He has not won a fight literally since 2019. So it's about to be 5 years since his last time his arm was raised in the octagon. And I think going by his last performance, I hope he performs better in this fight. It would be awesome to say, oh man, there's going to be a Gracie Holden a win here. Gracie, the name Gracie, synonymous, legendary, synonymous with MMA. And unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. I think he'll perform better than his last fight, which is saying something. But I don't think we're going to see, I mean, gosh, it has to be decades since we saw a Gracie win in the UFC, which is wild when you think about it. But in any case, I'm going with Bryce Mitchell by unanimous decision. Again, I think Kron, he's 36, very inactive. He's only had the one fight in the last 4 or 5 years, which was that most recent performance, which was really rough. He didn't look particularly good against Cub Swanson either. His only fight where he did look good, at least in the UFC, was against Alex, which was a first-round submission. I just don't see that happening here. Bryce, much more consistent in the octagon, despite being 1-2 in his last 3. I mean, prior to that, I mean, he was on a crazy streak. He was undefeated prior to the Ilya loss. Actually, no, I see that in pro competition. And in any case, I think he's going to get back on track, going with Bryce Mitchell by unanimous decision. Bryce has never scored any pro wins by knockout or TKO. It would be a submission. I don't see him submitting Kron Gracie. So I'm going with Bryce by unanimous decision. Moving on, we have Cyril Gane. We got the heavyweights in action against Alexander Volkov. And this is one I feel can go one of two ways. Either Cyril gets that first round victory and sends Alexander packing quick, or Volkov can score a strategic, control-heavy, unanimous decision. I think this is going to be a pretty competitive fight, despite that. Prior to if it ends in the first round or goes that decision, I don't think it's going to be pretty clear-cut. Heavyweights, it's such a toss-up. I mean, the heavyweights have the power to end these fights in less than a minute. And then we see the other extreme where fights in the heavyweight division are just, unfortunately, just 3 or 5 round, just, whew, I mean, slogs. Slogs, is that a word? Slogs? Is that, I think that's a word. Let's go. Let me use my trusty iPad right here. Always using SureDog. It's my go-to MMA website. Slog. Let's see, slog. Work hard over a period of time. Or hit forcefully and typically wildly, especially in boxing. So, okay, maybe not the word I'm necessarily looking for, but those fights can be a drag. Okay, that's a better word. Just going all the way to the clock, whether it's 15 minutes or 25. What will we see? Cyril Gane, 2-2, 3-2 in his last 5, taking some rough losses. That loss to Nagano and decision, which so close, but so far. Rough one to see because I felt he could have had it. And John Jones, that was really rough, getting submitted in 2 minutes in the very first round. He bounced back with a TKO in the second round over Sergey Spivak. And Alexander Volkov has been looking pretty good, currently on a 4-fight win streak, having only most recently lost in his last 5 to Tom Aspinall. And this is a tough one to call. Like I said, I could see Alexander getting the decision, or I could see Cyril Gane getting a first-round finish. What are we going to see? What are we going to get? I think we'll see. I mean, I did well at 309, but let's see if 310 keeps that momentum. Gonna go with Volkov by unanimous decision. I think Volkov's going to come in this very defensive. I don't think he's going to give Gane any openings. And I think we're going to see Volkov get a 3-round decision. So that is my pick for the heavyweights. Moving on to welterweight action, we have 2 undefeated fighters. And one thing I can guarantee about this fight, one of these fighters, or rather, I messed up my own joke. Darn it. I'm still going to swing for it. I messed it up again. One thing I can guarantee is that someone will be undefeated when this fight is over. I got it. I got it out finally. Oh my. Anyways, Shavkat Rakhmonov on fire, 18-0, all finishes against a fellow undefeated welterweight Ian Garry, 15-0. Whose O will go? I think it's going to be Ian Garry's. Shavkat has looked like a complete monster, always getting those finishes. He's been tagged a couple of times. I mean, that Jeff Neal fight was ridiculous. And Ian Gary can certainly, I feel Gary has the fight IQ to potentially take this to a decision. I mean, it is a 5-round fight, but I don't think he's going to be able to control Shavkat. I think we're going to see Shavkat get a second round TKO finish. I think he's going to continue the trend, which is finished by Shavkat is the trend when in his fights, apparently. And I think that's going to happen. Again, Gary is certainly no slouch, coming off a decision win over Michael Venom Page. He also beat Jeff Neal, so they have that common denominator. At least more recently, he scored a split decision over Jeff. Shavkat scored the finish. So both of them also defeating Neil Magny. They defeated, or Shavkat defeated Magny by submission in the second round. And what was the result? Let's take a look back. The result over Magny, again, was a decision. So fighters that Gary is going to the cards with, Shavkat has been finishing. So I think that's there's some MMA math. I know there's not always full truth to MMA math, but I think there is some here, and I think we're going to see Shavkat remain undefeated, 19-0, challenge for the welterweight title in the new year, and we will see. I think he actually won't make it to that far. I think he'll even go 20-0, because the person who wins this fight, I believe, is scheduled to finally face off with Belio once he's all healed up. So we will see that happen. I think it's going to be Shavkat versus Belio in 2025, and we'll see a new welterweight champion. But you never know. Belio's certainly not someone to be discounted. I mean, he's done some unthinkable things. A very talented fighter in his own right. Shavkat by TKO in the second round for this fight. In our main event, we have 125-pound action, guys, near my division. We got 125 action flyweights. The flyweight title fight between Alexandre Pantoja, 28-5, against the debuting Kai Asakura, and he is 21-4. One of the rare moments in UFC history where you see a fighter debut in a title fight. No pressure. But very talented fighter is going to war here, and I think we're going to see this go to the cards. Alexandre has been on fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-fight win streak. Kai on a 2-fight win streak, coming from Risen, and this is going to be his first UFC fight. He likes to finish by knockout. I don't see that one happening here. I think we're going to see Alexandre continue to fight very wisely. I think this will go to the cards. I think I'm going to go with Pantoja, and still by unanimous decision. He's more recently he's won his last 3 by decision. I don't see him getting the finish here over Kai. I think Kai will withstand the storm, and this fight will go to the cards. And like I said, Pantoja by unanimous decision. Those are my picks for UFC 310. This is my very cool sweater from, good old Sonic World, Sonic Universe. In any case, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a year's worth. This is going to be the last mixer for this year. I will see y'all in the new year. Happy holidays. And again, check out our friends at $14.95. Always happy to be calling the action. My predictions. Always great to share with you all. Thank you so much for tuning in.